We are talking about basically about the interconnection of technology, meaning high technology, and geopolitics. But first, let me introduce the panelists. We are two. We don't have a separate moderator, so I'm going to take the role either the panelists, either the moderator. First, let me introduce my colleague, Michelle Watson, an American colleague, high-level expert of cybersecurity issues on different aspects of cyber warfare, cyber intelligence, and working on both the strategic and operational level. Also, a fellow researcher. She's now with us in Budapest for a couple of months, doing research work at the prestigious Danube Institute. My name is Gábor Nyáry. I am a professor of geopolitics, digital diplomacy, techno-geopolitics at the Milton Friedman University, and also a researcher here at Ludovica at the Cybersecurity Institute. So, as I said, we are talking about the close interrelation, interconnectedness of two domains, two fields. One is high technology, the other is geopolitics. Geopolitics, as you know, is basically high politics, the power politics, the power competition between nations, among, first of all, the two biggest ones, the United States and China. By technology, we are meaning here basically anything related to digital technologies. First of all, of course, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, quantum computing, and some of the fields, some of the new fields. First of all, outer space. Outer space is a good example for the fusion of different fields, different problem areas, I would say. I would like to cite some very dramatic examples. There is a very famous competition, a very famous conference, and a very famous competition in the United States, in Las Vegas. And last year, one of the first of the conferences, which is called Black Hat, a small team of German researchers from a relatively unknown research university, University of Bochum, presented a paper which was really shocking for everyone. They made a small research trying to hack 3 satellites, 3 commercial satellites. And they managed to do it without any problems. It costs about $10,000, which is perhaps big money for a single person, but for even a non-state actor or a state, it's just nothing. It was very easy to hack them because, as it turned out, computer systems on satellites are practically defenseless. To start with, a satellite, which is something high up, is basically, in my mind, just a computer. It's very telling that one of the type of one of the computers hacked by the German scientists is called flying laptop. It very clearly means what a modern satellite is. Satellites nowadays is not a big thing like it was 50 years before. It's something very small, something very cheap, something very common. There was another conference which is called DEFCON, also in Las Vegas, a couple of weeks following the Black Hat conference mentioned. DEFCON is basically a hacking competition. There is the most important feature is an event called Hack a Satellite. Last year, it was previously it was a kind of a computer simulation, but last year it was more or less real. NASA, the American Space Agency, together with SpaceX, which is a private space company, they just launched a special CUBE satellite, a very small satellite, which served as a target, I mean a real target of that hacking competition. Within some days, all the hacking groups participating in the competition managed to take over the direction of the satellites, meaning that they are really, really defenseless. These are theories, these are studies, these are competitions, but hacking a satellite is also a real-life event. There is a very famous case when the shooting war between Russia and Ukraine broke out in February 2022. A couple of days before the commencement of the armed conflict, there was a very, very huge cyber attack against a satellite company called Viasat, which is basically a provider of broadband internet to around 120,000 modems throughout Europe. It was knocked out for a couple of days, or some of them, part of the system for a couple of weeks. It was a very sophisticated attack. It was using a very special malware. The name was Acid Rain. It was a Viper. It was intended to destroy all the data on the affected computer systems. So, cyber war is also a feature of the outer space. These two things, two fields, are interconnected. But let us say about what cyber war is in general.
Thank you, Gábor. Well, first of all, I'm going to take a step back, because I will address cyber warfare. First of all, I generally start, when I talk about cybersecurity, with definitions. Because cybersecurity is a huge topic, and there are many, there's many definitions, and there's a huge lexicon of verbiage and terms that we use. And before we start talking about them, I like to just define them. But before I do, two questions for the audience. First of all, raise your hand if you already know, listen, I'm going to be in cybersecurity, I want a career in cybersecurity, I'm studying cybersecurity. Raise your hand if that's the case. All right. Raise your hand if you think you might want a career down the road in cybersecurity. Okay. Interesting. The rest of you, are you here because you're interested in cybersecurity, or this is the only panel that's open right now? No, I'm kidding. All right. So before I define cybersecurity, I want to ask those of you that are in cybersecurity right now, does anyone want to take a stab at what do you think of when you think of cybersecurity? What is the definition according to you? Any of you guys want to just like raise your hand and say, here's what I think cybersecurity is defined as today? Yeah, please.
Regarding our terms, thank you very much. So regarding our terms, as our definition, it's making the defense of all cyber assets by providing their confidentiality, availability, and the integrity of these systems. So that's our short definition for cybersecurity.
That's a really good definition. And then I should say that the definition of cybersecurity, even in the US, from a government standpoint, from a private sector standpoint, is complicated because there are many definitions and there's no like de facto definition even from a US federal government standpoint. Now, I'm from Silicon Valley. I'm not an academic. I don't work in government, but I've worked with academics and I work with the government. But I'm a private sector business person. I've been in cybersecurity for over 25 years and cyber intelligence for the last 12 years, but I'll come back to that. But I'm going to read to you what is considered, at least by the US government right now, the official definition of cybersecurity. Relating to, involving, or characteristic of computers, computer networks, information and communication technology, also known as ICT, virtual systems, or computer-enabled control of physical components. Right. I read that, I'm like, okay, what a mouthful. And okay, it doesn't really, it says a lot without saying much. Does that make sense? But it's like techie people talking to techie people. From a Silicon Valley standpoint, I'll tell you the best definition I ever heard of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is the security of cyberspace. Yeah, makes sense? A little easier to understand? Then it leads us to the next question, which is, okay, what the heck is cyberspace? I mean, we all have thoughts, but what's the definition of cyberspace? So again, I talk about the definition of cyberspace in two different ways. First of all, we all know the internet, right? Internet's been around since, well, officially a DARPA thing in the US government and back in the 80s, but really came to commercialization in the 90s. So think of cyberspace as the internet and everything connected to the internet. That is every device, not just computers and phones, but anything that logs on to the internet. Can you imagine how massive that is? It's massive. But it also, think about the interconnectivity. Even though you don't want to be connected, on a platform or systems with everything else in the world, you are. So that interconnectivity, this interdependency that we call cybersecurity, also leads us to cyber insecurity. Because how the heck are we going to secure our own domain, whether you're a nation or you're a company, or even in your own home, you want to keep other people out of your own network, right? So cyberspace is massive. The other thing I want to say about cyberspace is that it's also classified by the US government as the 5th geographic domain, the other 4 being land, air, sea, space, outer space. And also, the cyber domain is the first man-made domain. So this is a very special classification. I wrote a paper on cyberspace being the 5th geographic domain back in 2012. And for some reason, the Polish really liked it. They picked it up and translated it in Polish. And I went, wow, I wish I read Polish. But anyway, it's just a level set. Think about a brand new geographic domain, man-made. So it's a big deal. And it's primarily classified this way for military operations. Does that make sense? Anyway, so that's cyberspace. Now, the next thing I want to define, just as a level set, is cyber intelligence. Any of you heard of cyber intelligence? Cool. All right, so it is a subset of cybersecurity. But it is extremely important, and it is not the same as cybersecurity. It is a necessary, and I think the first step to companies and nations, organizations establishing cybersecurity. So again, lots of definitions, no de facto definition of cyber intelligence, but it's really important. So I wrote it down so I don't get it wrong with you guys. Cyber intelligence is a unique tradecraft that combines technology, knowledge, and classic analytical and investigative skills. So you think of like spies doing intel. Think of like spies doing intel in cybersecurity. Analysis of data, analysis of information so that you have intelligence. Anyway, it assesses an adversary's motivations, capabilities, intentions, and activities in the cyber domain. It's also what we call TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. Cyber intelligence looks at on your networks or on across any domain, looks at what anomalies. Is someone trying to hack my system? Is there weird things happening that I can target and get at a potential adversary before they attack me? All of this is cyber intelligence. So before you even get to all right, so what hardware I'm going to use for cybersecurity, what software, SaaS platforms, all that. You need cyber intelligence to start with that. And for cyber intelligence, you need humans. So you need human beings that are analyzing the data, right? That's important to know because artificial intelligence is something that we're leading to, and AI is a very big part of where we're going with cybersecurity as well. But keep in mind, the human is a very important element. AI is trending towards taking out the human element. It'll never happen completely, and we'll come to why. All right. Before I move on, any questions? All right, so next I want to talk about cyber warfare. Gábor and I were talking the other day, and people were saying, before the Ukraine-Russia war, they were like, all right, this is going to be the first major theater war operation that will test the theory that so many governments, I think my own government included, said, all right, this is going to be cyber warfare at its greatest. We may not even have real tanks and bullets and missiles because this thing may be done and over in a cyber environment. I thought, there's no way. This is something I think a lot of video gamers dream of. It's, I think, a video gamer's dream. Was never going to happen. However, cyber has a huge role in warfare. I think the most important thing is initially. Initially, the goal is, can we take out our adversaries' communications? Not just for regular communications, but command and control. If you can take out your adversary's military command and control, not only affecting troop movements, but affecting targeting of drones and missiles and all that, very, very important. That is why, as my colleague said, Russia took out Viasat, which covers, it was the only satellite covering Ukraine at the time. So a few days before they moved in with tanks, they took out Viasat, which took out internet for the country, but also took out the command and control capabilities for targeting of the Ukrainian army, right? That happened, it's like, crikey. The same day, as the story goes, Zelensky calls Elon Musk and said, hey, I hear you have this company called Starlink. All right, I'm expounding. This is not exactly how the conversation went, but basically said, help. And he goes, no problem. Starlink, we can do it. So Starlink is different from Viasat, which is a big satellite company. So Starlink is a interconnectivity of systems called LEOs, low Earth orbiting satellites. So they cover smaller areas, and they're much lower. So there's like 20,000 of these LEOs covering Ukraine. And Elon Musk made this available via Starlink to Ukraine, and he's footing the bill. And just as a data point, it's 20,000, well, 6 months ago, it's $20,000 a month that he's paying for this access. And it's not just for internet for your average person so that, mom can call and check on, how people are doing, and access to the internet, but also command and control and targeting of their missiles and drones and whatever, right? So this is where cyber is the most important in terms of operations, in terms of can it take out an adversary's communications. Russia, one of the best in the world at cyber, thought, yeah, we could do this and really hurt Ukraine. Thanks God, that strategy didn't work. As a matter of fact, they even called the strategy Thunder Run. Russians' strategy of taking them out the internet and command and control system was going to be a big hit to Ukraine. Thunder Run was not successful. All right. The other thing about cyber operations in terms of the command and control and information, that's all really important. But there's a great case study that was done in July of last year that looked at the Ukraine-Russia war from a cyber standpoint and goes, what worked? What didn't work? What's our lessons, best practices? Bottom line is this. It wasn't the big silver bullet that Russia thought it would be, not only because it just wasn't going to be, Russia wasn't as good as they thought they were, number one. Number two, all the allies of Ukraine came immediately to Ukraine's aid, not just Elon Musk. NATO invited Ukraine into the cyber security command center in Tallinn. So Ukraine became a member of NATO's cyber command center and gave them a lot of capabilities, as well as all the other allies, US, UK, everyone. So there's a whole team of countries helping Ukraine from a cyber defense and a cyber offense standpoint, right? So there's that. Yeah, so the last thing I want to say about cyber warfare is that the cyber operations, not just the initial targeting and taking out comms, that notwithstanding, where it has been the most successful in this war. Russia, using their propaganda, has been very successful using deception, disinformation, and misinformation to sway public opinion towards their perspective of the war, right? And their reasoning and justifications. And even more importantly, to sway public opinion against countries and people supporting Ukraine. That had it's been having a pretty impactful, I think, success, especially because U.S. Congress, held up the aid package for Ukraine for 6 months? Not just because of Russia, but these disinformation campaigns that are executed cybernetically are very successful, unfortunately. And then the last thing I'll say is just the AI element into cyber is now, it's absolutely necessary. Use AI algorithms to target the adversaries where they are, and we kind of learned a lot about this from a U.S. government standpoint with the war in Syria. We use specific AI algorithms to target insurgents using pre-existing data, even beyond what we had on the ground. That was successful, so this is what we're using and how we're integrating AI algorithms into Ukraine now. Last thing I'll say on AI is, how many of you are studying AI, first of all? All right, how many of you want to study AI? All right, very quickly, there are 4 levels of AI. There's narrow AI, which is systems that are performing a certain task that it's being trained for, right? We all can understand that. The next one is general AI. And general AI is systems that perform a broad range of tasks, not just what it was trained to do. And then there's artificial superintelligence. And artificial superintelligence, these are systems that could exceed human cognition and human capabilities across a myriad of most tasks, right? And then the last one is generative AI. I'm sure you guys have heard about this, also called Gen AI. And that is where, using AI, you're creating new content. Deepfakes. Who's heard of deepfakes, right? Yeah. And this also became, did you guys read about this thing in Hollywood last year where they did a big walkout? The SAG, Screen Actors Guild, said, hey, we're protesting against AI being used for writers and for even actors, because Gen AI can replicate an actor, put him in a movie, and that actor doesn't ever even need to show up. So it's very, very, very controversial. And I'll just leave it at this, that narrow AI is the only AI out of the 3 levels that exist right now. Gen AI is something different, but general AI and artificial superintelligence don't exist yet, and may or may not. That's a level of AI we haven't gotten to. And I'll just say one last comment on AI that Putin said a couple of years ago. He said, whoever leads in the AI field will control the world. Now, I'm not sure I agree exactly with that, but he makes a strong point. So with that, thank you guys. Any questions before I hand over to Gábor? Cool. All right.
Thank you very much. Just to add some details, Michel was talking about extensively about cyber warfare, mentioning examples of the actual battles raging in Ukraine. There is one interesting thing I see in the developments. There was during 1.5 decades a very intense debate among technical experts, politicians, whether cyber war as a real war would be coming or not. Many people said that cyber will be the new nuclear technology deciding everything. It didn't happen. I would like to cite a famous sentence of a British general who is not a technical expert, who is a military person, and he said in a very simple way, I can just not imagine that computers can occupy a city. A tank can. And I think it's very much to the point. What we are seeing now in Ukraine is a very, very intensive, let's say, traditional war. But since the beginning of last, let's say, June, there is a very interesting development. Cyber war or cyber warfare in Ukraine also, as we have been talking about, was on a strategic level, let's say. Attacking a bank is a strategic attack. Attacking even Viasat, communication, mobile internet is on the strategic level. What started to get a very extensive play of, first of all, Russians on the field, on the battlefield, was waging a kind of cyber warfare on the tactical level, which is much more deadly, in my view, than let's say an attack against a satellite system. Cyber attack on a tactical level means basically that on the modern battlefield, people, I mean, even low-level commanders are using laptops, and on the laptops are running so-called command control software. They just give an awareness of the battlefield situation. It's very important. They know everything. They know where the enemy is, where the enemy assets are, where the own people are, and they can make decisions during battles. Many of these technical assets, laptops, are get into the hands of the enemy. For example, the Russians. They immediately started to analyze the software going on that. They managed to hack a very important Ukrainian software, command control software, which directs, for example, the strikes of the normal, let's say, the artillery strikes, and the Russians can manage to hack it. It was a very big feat and very deadly ones, because people began to die, and other peoples just could save their lives. So that was one of the things I wanted to add. The other thing, we have been talking about the role of artificial intelligence in cybersecurity. It's important to know that it's really, as it happens with almost any really edge technology, it is a double-edged weapon. Cybersecurity is a field where defenders and attackers are just making a cat-and-mouse game. And the defenders are already using for a couple of years now different artificial software for the analysis of possible cyber attacks. But now the attackers are also started to use extensively artificial intelligence tools, and the so-called generative artificial intelligence, large language models, represent a really important development in that field, because they made possible even for not for laymen, but for people with very basic technical knowledge to develop deadly software, deadly malware attacking systems. So it's one of the most important developments. I mean, artificial intelligence, development of artificial intelligence is one of the most important developments within the whole cybersecurity field.
Absolutely, and it's growing exponentially in terms of the applications that you can apply AI to. And the other thing I want to say is that, you know, AI has been around for a long time. I remember back in the 90s in Silicon Valley, it's like, yeah, okay, we use artificial intelligence in a lot of things. And it's very basic. And it's exploding now today for a number of reasons. And one is because you need a tremendous amount of data in order for AI to be valuable, because it needs to process, right? It needs to sift through a lot of data to be able to extrapolate what's important that you are targeting, right? And if you don't have a lot of data sets, your analysis is going to be either completely irrelevant or it'll be skewed. I'll give you an example. One of the things, it's a big criticism of AI now, from a social standpoint, is that there's a lot of like gender or racial bias towards certain questions, and then analyzing the questions and giving answers if it has to do with, you know, race, you know, sexual orientation, and all that. It's just it's dealing with data that they have, and the data is always incomplete. You never have complete data. So when you're getting analysis of AI systems, it's going to be skewed only as good as the data and the wealth of data that's in, you know, garbage in, garbage out. So it's really important to note that AI is valuable in a lot of ways, but you have to take it with a grain of salt because it's incomplete data being analyzed in an incomplete way. So your answer is going to be incomplete. You may not know how is it incomplete and where is it incomplete. That's why you need to take that, you know, it needs to be taken, you know, and balanced. And this is where human is so important. You need humans to analyze the input, the parameters, you know, and factor in, here's where a perceived bias, crikey. Here's where we see perceived bias in the data. So can you trust the end result of an AI task? You know, I know a lot of lawyers that use AI. I won't go down that road. I mean, lawyers, necessary evil in this country, but it's a tremendous amount of data. If you imagine all the cases in law and all, it's so much data to go through, and yet the result is potentially correct, potentially incorrect. And it's the same thing with AI and looking at adversaries. And I think one thing I'm very excited about is, and as bad as it is, the Ukraine-Russia war, it is providing us a wealth of information from an AI success standpoint. What's being put in, what are the parameters, how good is the results of the AI assessments? Like how successful is the targeting that's using AI algorithms. It's learning all the time. And I think it's going to be something forever we will see cyber and AI used together in cyber warfare in the major theater battle theaters, right? But it's never going to be the alpha and omega. It's going to be a component of wars. You'll always have the kinetic, as Gábor said. You need the tanks, unfortunately, and war will always be. The goal is some political outcome, and cyber warfare doesn't get you there. It is a tool to get you there. Yeah.
Yes, we are nearing to the end, and before letting the audience ask us some questions, I would like you to make first a really short explanation what the difference is between cyber warfare and information warfare, because I know that you are expert on also on information security matters, and to end our conversation, I would like to explain your thoughts on a very important and very interesting new fusion, which is between information warfare and artificial intelligence, let's say the so-called deepfake phenomenon.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. So taking those two in order, first of all, huge topics, as we understand. But let me
That's why I said
just
very basically.
Very basic, high level. The difference between cyber war and information war is also called influence operations. So you have cyber operations, influence operations, cyber warfare, and information warfare. The difference is basically this. Cyber warfare is where you are using cyber operations, you're using systems, you're using computers, you're using targeting for some type of command and control military or military-related result, right? Information warfare, very different. You still may be using, the internet. Well, you are using the internet, but you're using social media, using every possible communications platform
or even
out there.
Radio, newspaper, television.
Yep. Any media platform.
It's something
exactly.
from ancient times.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically. And now the relation between artificial intelligence and the information warfare, because it's important, because it's not only the field of the military, but for example now this year is a year of lots of elections throughout the world.
Yes.
And this is one of the most important issues.
Yes. And I would just say that it's actually a continuation of my first answer. AI is a component used in information warfare. And again, information warfare is targeted more at the public sector, to sway public opinion, to go against one side or the other of the warfare, right? And you use AI as a tool to get across your information campaign, disinformation campaign in the case of Russia. And again, whether you use deep fakes or you just use algorithms that target certain communities, like here's a potential question that you could put into AI, algorithm for info ops. What demographic of people in Europe are most likely to be swayed against the Ukraine war and towards the Russian perspective? You can do that. You can put something like that in there, and it will search through all the data, social media especially. Social media is a huge platform for disinformation campaigns, and Russia uses it probably better than anyone. So again, it's a tool to target information warfare.
Okay, we have a couple of minutes left. I would like to ask everyone who has a question, please do it.
Thank you very much. As it was mentioned that during the presentation that Starlink was used from a private company to support a country in war, Ukraine. My question would be that how do you see the future role of non-state actors in the geopolitical competition who may have more capabilities than state actors in either outer space or in cyberspace? Thank you.
Great question. Do you want to answer? You want me to answer?
Just a very short one. At this moment, I'm doing a research about exactly that field. It's unfortunately confidential, so I just cannot reveal even the title of it. But it's the area is that, and what I have already discovered is just frightening, I would say. So as to the future, I'm really frightened.
Yes, great question, first of all. And I actually gave a presentation last September at Danube over on the Buda side. And it was my first time ever in Budapest. And the presentation was the private sector's role in cyber warfare using Ukraine as an example. So when I mentioned Starlink, I did a whole presentation on here's all the things that Starlink did in Ukraine and is continuing to do, and the good, the bad, and the ugly part of it. But there's also Microsoft and Google and Amazon Web Services. All of these companies are working very closely with Ukraine to help them execute the war. So the bottom line question, and this was asked about Elon Musk's Starlink, because there was a very highly publicized example where Starlink turned off their services on a command and control basis to the Ukraine army when the Ukraine was wanting to target Russian subs in the Black Sea, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ukraine, Zelensky calls Elon and says, hey, what's up? We wanted to take out these subs. And the bottom line answer was, Elon said, I don't want to be contributing to a potential nuclear war event. I think this may precipitate something so heinous. I don't want to be, I don't want to have a role in that. And Ukraine was like, there was a big argument, and then it spurred a huge debate all over the world. Should a private sector company have such a role in warfare where they have that much power? I mean, Elon Musk has enough power as it is. I mean, I'm not weighing in one way or the other because you can make a case on both sides. But should a non-elected official make a decision about a huge warfare initiative? It's like putting your thumbs on the scale. Whether you agree with him doing it or not, the power in the private sector of an unelected official is extremely concerning, and it should be.
Yes, I fully agree. It's perhaps one of the biggest issues of future times because both cyber, both the exploration of outer space is basically a private sector affair now. And the big question is that who are they? What kind of actors are they? Are they like nation states? Because they behave like nation states. What international status is theirs? So it's something very important, but it's quite open now. To finish the panel, I would like to thank for your attention, your patience. I hope it was not really boring.
Never boring.
Okay, thank you very much also for the conversation.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. Hey, and by the way, any of you interested in just like following up with me, if there's anything I could do to give you advice or guidance or anything, hit me up on LinkedIn, Michelle Watson. I'm there, and I mentor a lot of people in cyber. Just give advice. So if anyone's interested, find me on LinkedIn. All right, take care. Thank you.